Making his return to the Everyman podcast today is Grammy-nominated vocalist, songwriter, and co-founder of Between the Buried and Me, Tommy Rogers. His new EP, Feel Better, is available everywhere digital music is sold. Ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Rogers. Tommy, what's up, brother?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys?
Dude, doing good, man. You're looking good. You looking trim out there, dude. You losing some
great.
COVID pounds?
I wish I had hair, bro. I don't.
I shaved a little, so it makes me look a little slimmer.
That is.
I had a mustache, but my family wasn't digging it.
I try to go with the mustache. My fiance, she's not a big fan. And actually, before we get too into it, a little Cosmic Canoe moment here. Actually, this podcast is coming out on my fiance's birthday, and we met at a Between the Buried and Me show.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling us that.
That's awesome. So one of very few. So happy birthday to you. And so, dude, let's just jump into it, man. So obviously, we've all been kind of affected in various ways here with the COVID-19. Daryl and I joke about everywhere they keep talking about these unprecedented circumstances or uncertain times. It's like it's COVID. It's like a branded holiday they don't want to infringe upon or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously some of the BT Bam stuff got postponed. But, I want to hear from you. So how was that process for you, when it first started and how quick did everything happen for you?
Well, we were on tour when it started. We had just done Australia, and then we flew over to South America. So we were just, exhausted, as much as you can imagine. And, then we started hearing about this virus, and as typical Americans, we were like, oh, we're fine. It's not going to affect us. And,
yep.
and then we noticed, because we were flying to different countries every day, we noticed that every day we were, landing and basically going through these screenings where they take your temperature, and it got a little creepier, kind of Black Mirror-esque every day, and we were like, all right, this is getting really serious, and obviously we were keeping up with what's going on at home, and every morning we were kind of like deciding if we need to cancel shows or fly or what we need to do. So it was a stressful last few days, but we made it through the tour. But the craziest thing was the second we flew home, like I landed in LA and no screening, no interview, no temperature. And just instantly I was just like, it's crazy how, we were flying in the week before some very small airports.
Yeah.
And I just fly into like one of the biggest airports in the country, and it's like nothing's even going on. And then a week later, it was just, full isolation, all that. So we as a band really lucked out because, we had a lot of fellow musicians who, that started a tour right when it happened and had to cancel. There's a lot that goes along with that, paying for buses and
merch, all that stuff.
A lot of money lost. So we were very fortunate to get off the road. Literally, it was like days before the lockdown. And when I landed, I was really worried about, having something or giving it to my son and wife, and because I was in Australia, there was a lot of cases there, and I kind of, we took a lot of precautions. I didn't completely self-isolate from them, but I was very careful about coming back home. So yeah, it was crazy, and here we are still dealing with it, and I don't know, there's a lot to talk about it. I think everybody on a grand scale is, it's affected everyone in some way or another, and I think it's shed light on a lot of things.
Yep.
How our society operates and what's wrong and right about all of it. So
Seriously.
I think one of the really interesting things is just the idea about sick time or staying home when you're sick. And I've always kind of, been one of those people in an office that's like, I can't believe people come in, they're hacking, they're coughing, they're doing all this shit. And I'm always like, just stay home. Like that's why we have sick time, And people feel like they, a lot of people feel like they're going to lose their job or they don't want to be away from work. And I understand that. But I think this is really, if anything, it's helped everyone understand that, like, safety first, like health comes first, and we got to put a pause on things and find a new way to do stuff. And obviously, not to get too into the weeds about it, but, no matter what you go through, there's going to be hindsight, and oh, maybe could have done this differently, done that. And I think the important thing is we figure out the solutions, because I know I'm, as a fan of music, I I want to be able to do that again, and see it and experience it in the way that it's meant to be experienced. And, if we don't start, and it's like a fine line between taking risks and experimenting and trying new things. And, I talk about a lot. I'm a big pro wrestling fan. And one of the cool things about what they're figuring out new ways to do stuff, as an example, and it's working. So I hope that, concerts, do the same. And one of the things I'm curious about if it affected you differently. So when it first started, I remember calling my fiance and be like, hey babe, you got to go run to the store, grab, some this, grab that, make sure we have enough stuff. And obviously, you guys are very vocal, you're a vegan. And I was wondering, was there any extra difficulty for you guys getting extra stuff in the early stages? Because there's not typically a ton of options. I know there's more where you are, but was that an extra complication for you guys at all?
Not really. I mean, there was like a small toilet paper scare for me for like
TP.
Where I was like, I was like, we have
one square.
We have like 2 rolls left, and it's nowhere, But we found, obviously, it's just crazy. Like, it puts a lot of things in perspective. Finding food, I was fine, but it was crazy just going to the grocery store. You almost felt like a very privileged hunter and gatherer. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like, there was nothing in the stores, but you're like, okay, I can make this out of this, and make it work. And it almost brought you back to this kind of like fight or flight survival mode, in a very contemporary way. But yeah, I don't know.
Very comfortable.
It kind of, I didn't enjoy that, but I liked the things that made me think about. Like, it's like, oh, this is interesting. And
I gotta agree with you there.
The little things that we take for granted. I mean, I think that, all these freedoms. I think the thing I learned the most out of all this is like our so-called freedom. We made it something that was very individual. Like, everything's about me and what I can do, and I think that's still why all this is happening, is because no one's thinking like us, what are we doing together? We're all just worrying about ourselves, and that's why we're in this mess, is because people are very self-centered, and they're not trying to do what's best for the community as a whole.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, you have, it's hard to express a nuanced approach to anything these days, and we try to steer clear of anything that could lead one way or the other on any topic, but some things like this, it's like, well, it's too complicated to just put a simple answer together, for what should we do. And it's like, well, everyone's gonna kind of like, take for example, like the senior citizens and people like myself. I have a serious, stable but serious genetic heart issue. I'm taking extra precautions, as I say that as I'm sitting right next to Daryl, but Daryl's getting temperature checked and everything 6 times a day at his job.
Every day.
So, it's not like I'm going out, going nuts, everybody's, so it's like, you got to just, you're right. There's that personal element of it, but you also got to think about the whole crew,
And the future, it's not. I think everybody's living in like a 2-day period or a week period. They're not thinking in the future at all, which is, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to, because everything's changing. I think everybody's just winging it. I mean, even like we're dealing with school stuff right now with our son, because he's starting back in August, and I mean, even on a grand scale as a school system, they don't know what they're like kind of winging it, and every week it kind of changes a little bit. So I think every business is kind of like that at this point, where we're just kind of taking it week by week and figuring it out. So
I feel the same way. Even like, I went to the gym today, and there are a couple of guys walking around without their masks on, and like everybody else was. And one of the managers came up to a guy coming straight in, going right to his a spot, and he's like, "Listen, you got to have your mask on."
Yeah.
And he started giving him a little bit of shit, and I was just like, "Bro, listen, he's thinking about all of us. What I mean? Just kind of like, get out of here. I know you got that one track mind. You want to get to the bench. You want to get to your squat. I'm right there with you. But hey, you got to think about everybody." So
somehow that's become political, which is crazy.
Well, you can make bubblegum political in this day and age. Like, it's and that's what I mean about the nuanced opinion, because if you the minute you say, well, this guy has a good idea and this guy has a good idea, it's like whoa, like how could you possibly? And I think, when I talk with people like yourself, musicians and artists and people athletes that are used to working in a team environment, even though there's leaders in those teams, but I find that people that work in a team environment have a little bit more openness to a nuanced opinion and like being able to take, you know what I mean? And I think that's something that people may not, if you've always just been yourself and working for yourself or promoting yourself, it's hard to take a step back and be like, well, what's good for my neighbor here and what's good for my neighbor here?
Absolutely.
It's interesting. It's interesting times. I'm glad you guys are adapting, and that brings me to my next kind of point is that, we took the time to kind of invest into what we're doing with the podcast and take it into a new, visual realm and doing the live things, when we do that on Twitch. And if you were kind of already a toe in the water in the quote unquote future of, entertainment, like we all are, this really pushed a lot of people towards that. Yeah. And I bring this up because, obviously Blake has been killing it. I think in about another hour, he's going to be on Twitch live, doing his thing. And it's been cool to see the fans, really
he's been doing great with it. Yeah.
Go into that. So, one of the things a lot of people were asking is, like, what kind of innovation do you think you guys are going to see out of this, if anything, if there's anything you kind of have in mind?
I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I think the streaming video thing, I see both sides of it. I think certain age groups especially are drawn to it. Like for me, a band streaming live on the computer or on your TV, it's not remotely close to a live performance. Right. It's interesting, but I maybe 10 minutes in, I'm like, all right. And, that's just me being honest, but I think it's something that kind of needs to be done. It's the future of a lot of things. I don't know. I mean, I think it's making people think outside of the box, just like when streaming happened, it made musicians like, okay, people aren't buying CDs. What do we do? It's just another kind of another bump in the road where we have to figure out how to make it work. The only problem I see with live performance is as of now, I don't see anything that is remotely close to the feeling you get in a room with a band,
right,
or a singer or a performer in any way, sense, or form. Like in that energy and that connection. It's like I just don't know how that's going to be reproduced in any other way than being in a room with that person.
Yeah, that's you can't. There's that energy, that.
Yeah.
And it's like you start sounding like kind of like a woo-woo loony tune, but I've been, there's something going on. It doesn't happen every time a band takes a stage, and you can relate to that, I'm sure. Yeah. But sometimes you tap into something inside yourself with your bandmate, with the audience, and something special happens. And I've been there in the crowd, at some BT Bam shows where that's happened. I remember one in particular. When you guys played the Starland Ballroom, you sold it out with Animals as leaders.
Yeah, that was
I mean, I had never seen that place have so many people in it. There was, I mean, it was wall to wall.
That's what I'm saying.
And my parents were there at that show, and that was the first time my parents saw BT Bam, and they were there for that one, and it was like there was like something special going on there. So that's the thing but that's the thing that creates young musicians. That's the thing that some 13-year-old in the audience goes, I want to do that. And that's the thing that we're all going to lose if we don't take a step back, be okay with not having concerts right now, and play the long game. Think about the big picture,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about, the live experience, from a performer, is like you said, there's that energy that you feed off the crowd, especially with aggressive music. It's not like we're Jimmy Buffett where we're playing to a bunch of old people sitting down, like you feed off that, and like you perform better when you're being fed that, and it's hard to kind of duplicate that when you're just in your house or whatever. But I mean, I think it's great that we're in a day and age where you can create something that gives the fans something that it doesn't go completely black. It's not they can still experience your songs in just a different way. And like I say, I think it's the future in the sense that it's not going to replace live music, but I think it will be intertwined.
Yeah.
And people will get more creative with the things that they bring to the table with that.
So, yeah. I think there's a lot of guys that are doing it really well, and one in
Yeah.
particular that I think is really doing it interesting is Matt Heafy from Trivium. He's been on it for a couple of years now, and he's almost
one of those dudes that's like I told you so kind of thing.
Well, and not only that, but he's like popular to a whole different audience than that's the audience that was listening to Trivium, and he does stuff where like you'll see him working on a song, and then 6 months later they're on tour and he sets up a camera from the side stage and you're seeing the crowd, you're seeing his guitar tech, and then they're playing that song. And there's this cool thing if like, because whether it's, Game of Thrones or, Ozark, I just finished watching that most recent season, which is awesome.
I gotta watch Ozark.
Yeah, I haven't watched it either.
It's intense. It's intense. I was getting sweaty just watching it. But people are used to long form storytelling, and like this podcast is an example of that, where people were like, no, interviews have to be segments that are cut up in neat little 2-minute things, and it's like actually people want to hear the people they like talk for an hour, and and I think that long form, the progression of seeing an artist you like. Daniel from Tesseract is another great one where you see him working on demos for vocals, and then eventually we're going to see the album come out. So I don't want to see it replace it,
think
but
the thing, like on the other end of that, like I think the guys that do it are phenomenal, and I think it's such a interesting look into how people work. But I also think that as a musician, like especially when this happened, I felt like a huge pressure to do something like that, and I had to really think like, is this something I want to do or something I have to do because people expect me to do it? And I had to really kind of have that conversation with myself, and what I kind of concluded at this moment was like my process of how I write and how I come to the conclusion of writing songs. I think if I put a camera, I think it would change that, and I think there's part of it where I don't want people to kind of see that process, and I don't know, that might be me being selfish in some way, but I think as musicians we need to be really honest with ourselves and decide if that's something that's right for us individually. And me, I was like, I'll start a Twitch, I'll do this, and then the more I thought about it, I was just like, I don't know if that's really me. A, I don't like being in front of cameras, and B, I was like, I kind of like that my process changes, and it happens in a lot of different places. It doesn't happen in this one spot in front of this one camera, and I don't want it to interfere with that really, because I like how spontaneous that is for me, and how motivation just pops out of nowhere, not at a scheduled time for people to see,
That's that's awesome.
So I see both things, but there's people that really thrive in that platform, and it's something that fits for them really, really well. But I guess what I'm saying is I feel like if there's people out there that are kind of struggling with, is that for me, like, be honest with yourself. It may not be for you, and there's, you have to figure something that works for you. So,
hey T, let me chime in here real quick just to that fact. You mentioned writing there. I write poetry in my spare time, and
great.
I agree with you, because I feel there is a certain level of, I don't know, you having to have that moment to when you have a mind of of a creative to yourself. You know what I mean? There's something there's something innocent about it. There's something that's yours that you can pour yourself into, and then when people hear it, or when you go to like a spoken word set, and people they it's almost like you bring them into that moment once you read it, or they read it, because they see how much you've poured yourself into it. But you had to devote yourself to that time and that moment, alone. Yeah. So I hear you when you say that.
Yeah. And as far as, that's, you hit the nail on the head for sure. Like, and with like something with vocals and me, and like, for instance, the band, like when I write music or vocals for Between the Bear to Me and music, there's a lot of stuff that I kind of like go way in the left field to see if it works. and it would be straight up fucking embarrassing if people saw it. Like.
Yeah, they don't need to hear the
And
first
I don't
verse
want
about bananas or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't want something to make me feel insecure about something I'm trying, because
Right.
I think that's what's nice about like having that creative moment by yourself is like, who gives a shit? I can fucking try to
Absolutely.
rap over this part and it might not work, or I can, there's lots of things that I've done or written or tried that just was total shit. But
Right.
I don't want that to be
Permanent record.
Yeah,
Well,
permanent record.
the crazy thing is like it's just like so I'm a producer at NFL Films, so that would be kind of like the difference between if I'm editing this piece for whatever network or for whatever client, and my door is open and you hear all of the things that I'm saying into my microphone, VOing, just trying lines, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? As opposed to if I have that moment by myself, or if which normally ends up happening, I try later in the day when I know nobody's in the office and I can just focus on really honing in on this moment and these stories that I'm trying to just pull out of here and make visual so somebody can see it. You know what I mean? So like, like Jay, when you're saying like, if it's first about the bananas or whatever, like when you're by yourself, you're like, shit, I don't care. Like I'm going to keep going. But if when if a mic is there, if somebody's there, you're kind of like, can I really talk about this?
Yeah. And some people, like Devin Townsend, for instance, he can have a mic on him and he'll just create magic. Like
the first time.
That
guy's a genius.
That's not me. So I mean, just like anything, it works for a lot and doesn't for some. But there is money to be involved,
That's the interesting thing, and it's like with this, a little plug time here, the Everyman Podcast, we're live on Twitch, Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we kind of took what we do normally and we just tried to make it a little looser, and that's the cool thing about Twitch is because you can interact with your audience, and I'm sure you've ventured into the comment section on YouTube. It can get pretty
oh man,
pretty terrible there, pretty quick, and it's I'm
a pro with comments. They don't affect me at all anymore.
There you
That's
go.
good. I'd imagine you'd have to have a strong shield to it at this point. But everybody has a voice these days online, so it's a cool community. So now I want to talk to you about your newest release, Feel Better. So last time you were on episode 29, it's a long time ago here on the Everyman Podcast. Check it out if this is your first time listening with us. We talked a lot about your solo career and kind of the stuff that you had been working on and, what might be coming next. And, I kind of, everything starts happening and I see on Instagram the other day, Feel Better, it's out. Now it was kind of news to me. It was a surprise to me. Was this just as a result of COVID time, or had you already been working on this? But let's dive into Feel Better.
Yeah. Well, one song I had the music written, track 2. I wrote it on tour, I think last year sometime, and it was just something I was kind of sitting on. It never really felt right. It didn't feel right for Don't Touch the Outside, and I knew I wanted to do something with that. It was kind of always in the back of my mind. And then when COVID hit, I think just like most people, I was like, all right, I'm gonna use this time. I'm gonna be productive. I'm gonna write. I'm gonna do all this, and that's a lot easier said than done. I've definitely had good weeks, bad weeks. Lately a lot of bad weeks for writing. But it was just one of those things where I kind of wanted to just pour out what I was feeling at that time. See what happens. It was all very spontaneous, and I wrote the other 2 songs in 2 days, just real quick, and recorded everything at home. And I just kind of wanted to create something that kind of expressed how I was feeling in the moment, and hopefully that would resonate in a way where people could kind of connect with it and how they're feeling in the moment as well. So it was very therapeutic in a way.
I'll give you my thoughts on it. I know Daryl's itching to tell you what he thinks about it. So, and he hasn't told me yet either. So, the thing I really like about it, Tommy, is that, and I'm not just saying this because we're sitting here together, but I love music that has a lot of space sonically, and also kind of the intention of the instrumentation, where everything's placed and kind of how it how it's built, like how the house is built. And the first thing I noticed right away when listening to this that I thought was a little bit different than your previous stuff is this just had such a big open kind of like you said, therapy. And to me, like, it has a therapeutic vibe to it. And when I've been listening to it on my drive home from work. I just got back to work, 2 weeks ago, and everything's crazy. Now there's all these new things going on, and we're trying to keep our things going. And I started listening to it on the way home, and it really, like, it almost helps me, like, it's been helping me reset in a way. And it's really interesting. Cool. And like the thing I really like about it is just that the flow. There's just it's got a different feel, and I think it's like, it definitely points to how kind of we're all feeling here now. But I love it, and I'm really stoked, and I hope everybody after you've done this podcast, swipe up on the show notes. The link will be right there to purchase this. It's killer, man.
Awesome, thank you.
Man, I told Justin when I was getting out of the truck today, I've been listening to it since he sent it to me a couple days ago, like nonstop.
Awesome, thank you.
Man, I'm trying to keep it together, T, because a lot is going on. And, for me, like I said, I'm a scribe. I write poetry, and the words, there's a lot of poetic imagery in the words, and they really connected with me because I know you're married. I know, you have a son.
Yep.
I know you are really big on legacy. I know you are thoroughly in love with your family, and they mean the world to you. So, Better, the track Better really hit home with me because, the words, you are better, cherish the always. Mm-hmm. It just kind of floored me, bro. Cause like, I came home, and just so you know, man, like I played in the league for 6 years, all over, love football, and my wife and I have been married for 10 years. Prior to that, 6 years we dated. So a lot of stuff has happened. I haven't been perfect, man. I just haven't. So when you make a lot of mistakes, when you make a lot of mistakes, and you have someone that sticks with you through all of them, and
it's important, man.
You just feel like, ooh, man, this guy's just looking out for you. And those words, you are better, cherish the always. Cherish the always, to me, it means covenant. It really resonated with me for marriage because I love my wife, I love my son, I love my family, and I know I'm a good man, I'm a God-fearing man, but I know I'm not perfect, and I haven't been. And, when you jeopardize trust with your wife, when you just jeopardize trust, it's hard coming back from that, man. And so when you get to the point where they love you through it all, 6-7 days working, it's hard to be present when you're on the road. It's hard to be present as a man. It's hard to be present as a father. And then, just so much grace my wife has. And it was like, man, it was like you were in my head, man. It was like, you're better. Cherish the always. And then that fucking girl, bro, it came through like, it was like that diagonal opposite, man, that like, it will not be better. Yeah. Quit lying to yourself. It will not be better. Cause that's like the other part of you. Like
that's why that's there,
and it really fucks with you, man. And like, it was like it, and the way you ramped up with the music and the tone and then the falsetto, man. And it was just, and it built and then it just like, it just crashed and stopped, bro. Like I was just like, it's just been on. And it, like, I've been, for the last couple of days, I just come in, I look at my wife and I just say, you know what? Hey, I love you. And I'm thankful for you, and I appreciate you loving me through all my bullshit. And I'm working to be better, man. And so like that that track, I was listening to it all the way over here. I live like 20 some odd minutes away from Justin, so you know, like it's like on repeat, man. My Spotify, my everything, and you know, I just, you know, I'm all about the words, man, but I'm all about the feel and the tone. And like this EP, man, like it hit me in a place where like I was like, I needed it, man. I fucking needed it, man. And I'm thankful for what you did. I respect your craft. You know, I'm an athlete, man, former athlete, but I respect anybody who has a talent. And I just think you're brilliant, not just as an artist, man, but just for what it is that you're putting together. Because I can tell a lot of feeling went into that, man. Like that's like not just like feeling like, okay, you know, like you know, we have guests and we have people we've interviewed, and it's like, oh man, I put this together in a couple days, and I, you know, I'm like, dude, it's fucking awesome. You put it, like, you know, Justin has brought me into this. We call it the Cosmic Canoe of music. Like I didn't know too much about music at all, but like Justin is like, you know, sharing all his friends and, you know, people like you, and like I'm just, you know, I'm thankful to God for that too. But like when this happened, and just kind of like the week I've had with work, and just, you know, that song, just like, dude, I can't get it out of my head. And it's just, it really, honestly, man, it's just healing, man.
Well, thank you.
It's
man.
just,
that might be the best compliment I've ever gotten. So
yeah,
like ever. So
get a transcript and print that out for your website.
And
I don't even know what to say. I mean that. Yeah, I mean.
He breaks things down for a living, man. That's what he does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I appreciate that. I'm glad it could help in some way. I mean, that's honestly, like me, music is very therapeutic as a listener. So like when I decided forever ago that I wanted to write music, the point was to hopefully like connect to someone, you know, to connect to people. And that was why I started doing it. And so, you know, for songs like this, you know, that song in particular was it just flowed, you know. I think anybody that creates things, sometimes you just have those moments where it just happens, and that song was really quick, and I wanted it kind of to be like a mantra, something that kind of just like, there's a build, and, you know, there's the parallel, you know, the vocal that comes in, is that voice in the back of all our heads.
Oh man, yeah. It's
very
there.
Negative. And yeah, the reason I called the album Feel Better, and that song in particular, like it was a way for me to kind of like deal with, you know, everything that's going on, because there was that fear of like, how am I going to, you know, provide for my family? And like,
man.
Are we ever going to be able to do this again? Like you know, especially the kind of band I'm in, and the level we're at, like touring that's our lifeblood, you know?
Yeah.
So there was all these things, like, and that was just kind of a way for me to deal with that in the best I could. And I don't know, and to hear that it's like, you know, translated to other people and what they're dealing with at that moment, just, I mean, that's like, for real, that's awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah. And one thing too, like I'm trying to think, like track 1 in particular, you know, I don't know if all musicians deal with this, but, you know, and if they do, they're probably not very honest about it. But there's been lots of times throughout my career where I've hit these roadblocks mentally or physically where I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like, it's just for me, like, and nobody wants to say that, you know. At the end of the day, it's, you know, it's my it's a huge passion. I can never walk away from it. But like that first song is kind of me realizing like how much I should be thankful for, like my family, you know, and my music, and how those thoughts just should never creep in, because there's always going to be ups and downs. There's always going to be, no matter what we do, we don't like it sometimes, you know, even if it's the best job in the world, which is what I have, you know. And so it was me just kind of being honest about that with myself and being like, you know, fucking be thankful for what you've been given, that you can create this, you know. So that was kind of just me whipping myself into shape, being like,
I think a lot of people can certainly relate to that, you know, that you know. And I think Daryl and I talk a lot about social media, and we talk about it on the podcast a lot, and we don't generally have the most, you know, it's a tool just like anything else can be, and it can be used in a destructive manner. It can be used to uplift. And, you know, I really started limiting my consumption of it, and I made sure that anything that I'm putting out there is genuine, you know, and that's kind of the thing with these podcasts. You know, there's not a lot of editing that goes on with these. We put it out the way it is. You know, if we have a Skype issue, we edit that. But you know, these are we're presenting ourselves the way we are, and I think there's so much of this like manicured perspective that's become popular, that people push out, and that's become the expectation to people that are maybe unaware. So like, I'll just, you know, when I was coming up, you know, the idea of what a musician is, until I really walked the line, was like, oh, it's got to be like Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg. Like, I'm just gonna be getting fucking laid, you know, and fucking I'll just do this for a couple years. Next thing you know, I'll get in a limo and I'll join fucking Steel Panther or whatever. You know, like it's just like until you're in it, you know, and you're like, oh no, this is gonna be constant rejection and physical torture, you know, and emotional abuse, until I finally find a way to be comfortable. And I think social media has amplified the canceling of that out. So everybody wants to be perfect and right away, and they want to stick, you know, they just want to make it seem like they nailed it the first time. So like you're saying, this, you know, we're not perfect. We may want to quit, you know, like that's so true. Everybody has those thoughts. And you know, I'm glad that guys like yourself who are, you know, and I'm not trying to ball wash you here or anything, but you know, for a band that is kind of the music that you are, to get to that point where you're recognized by your peers in the music industry, to be nominated for a Grammy, you know, that shows that's the highest professional kind of, you know, recommendation that's available for people in this industry, to a certain extent. And you know, to be someone like yourself of that, you know, regard, and then to say, hey, it's cool to want to say it's okay to want to quit, you know, and it's just, but the important thing is, how do you feel better? How do you get back up on that horse? I think that's really powerful shit, man. Yeah,
thank you.
I think it's the biggest thing, and two, what I want our listeners to understand, and just, you know, even you know, fans for BT Bam and you in particular, is, you know, just the honesty that's coming through from your talent. It's you know, it's like that resonates with me the most, and you know, that's big for me.
That's what resonates with me too, and that's, you know, I walk that line, you know, with the band especially, because, you know, for the last few albums, and I write these huge elaborate stories, and part of me is like, you know, luckily I hear a lot of feedback that it does connect with people in personal ways, because I try to make it where these, you know, situations happening and ideas kind of have a personality that connects with me. But yeah, part of me is just like, I kind of want to just be me again. You know, you listen to, I mean, I hate to be like cliche, but you listen to like a Bob Dylan record, and it's like, dude, that's just,
he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's just pure. That's him, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so I don't know. There's that fine line for sure, but I get more gratification from writing something that resonates with someone emotionally more than it does like, oh, that's it, you know. You know, if it helps,
that riff's so heavy.
If it helped them like through something, or, you know, that's why we do it, you know, because music's done that for all of us, you know, as far as the band goes, you know. It's important. So
I tell you, I've been saying it.
There's lots of music right now, because the world is fucking crazy right now.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for years. Those BT Band boys, they're special. You guys are a special breed. I tell you, you really are. You guys are. You're all just, you know, you're great. So, I want to change gears here a little bit. We're gonna take some questions from the fans here as we wind down our time together. And you know, there was a lot of this first question. There's a lot of kind of general versions of this, so we'll just get this out of the way. So these are from your fans, loyal listeners, on the subreddit Between the Buried and Me. So that's the biggest BT Bam hangout on Reddit, so guys check that out. Shout out to Papa Crip, my man over there, the moderator holding it down. Papa Crip is he takes no shit, and he's a good man. So shout out to the Papa Crip there. So first question, my brother. Dreamlike Wonder wants to know, what's the status on the next BT Bam album, and will it be a concept album?
Ooh. I mean, we're taking it slow. I think just like everything right now, I think patience is key. You get that natural reaction right when this hit, like, we got to work, we got to, but I think anybody creatively knows that when you start really, really forcing things, it doesn't come out that great. And we're kind of not in a rush right now because we don't really know what the future is as far as where this is going. We're really focusing a lot of attention and trying to get this tour back together, like when that's going to take place. But I mean, we all write here and there, but right now we're just kind of taking it easy and letting it play out naturally. So hopefully we'll have updates soon, but as of now, we don't have any plans for when that's going to happen. And regarding concept, I mean, we haven't had a talk about it, but me personally, I'm kind of on board for like what we were talking about earlier, just kind of writing from the heart, seeing what happens. I think right now that's important.
Absolutely.
Authenticity.
I don't know. And I mean, I love writing concept stories, lyrics for stuff like that. It's a big challenge for me because I don't really consider myself a writer ever. And
what?
So,
you are a writer.
You are a writer, my friend.
You are.
And I don't know. It's always really tough for me, and sometimes I feel kind of boxed in, and I kind of want to be a little more free, I guess. So, but who knows? Maybe something will pop in my head that really, really, really motivates me to go the opposite way. Sometimes that happens. So, we'll see.
Let me ask you a little follow up there on that subject of kind of feeling like you're boxed in. Is there pressure because like you're kind of viewed as this concept mastermind, and like after you've done so many, I mean, you just start with colors and you go from there, and it's like, well, you've kind of built quite a thing here. Do you ever feel that pressure? Like, oh man, I gotta come up. This one's got to have time travel 3 times. Like,
lyrically, yeah. Lyrically, I do feel that pressure. I really noticed it when writing Automata. Partly that was kind of my own fault because I thought it would be a good idea to start with a simple idea and just build off that and kind of not plan things out like I normally do. And because of that, it created a lot of kind of hostility in my head. But it turned out cool. I'm pleased with, the end product. But yeah, I definitely feel, I don't know. I mean, I guess the last few records was, I don't know, mainly what I do is kind of try to, something has to really pop out at me, like in my head, like it has to really get me excited and be like, okay, I can do this and this and this. And, it's something that kind of just takes hold of you and it just naturally kind of flows out, And
nice.
If that doesn't happen for a while, you definitely get the pressure of like, shit, is this going to happen? Like, am I maxed out? Like, if there's nothing else to talk about, But I think just like a big theme with what we've been talking about is patience, and it will happen, So for instance, right now, like, I try to write a good amount of music, and I've been writing a lot with guitar, the last few months, and man, the last week and a half has just been a downer in regards to that. Just not happening. Like even yesterday, I worked for a few hours on something. It sucks. And but I'm at a point where I've been doing this long enough, and I know myself well enough that I'm like not freaked out about it.
Just hang in.
I know that's gonna go away. I know I'm gonna have like with better. Like I know there's gonna be that moment where it just flows out of me, and something feels really good. So yeah, we'll see. I need the thing for me is I need to stay off the news as much as
that'll do it.
There you go.
Me. Like I hate to like be selfish in that regard because I need to know what the hell is going on, and there's a lot of very important things right now going on, but I need to make that consumption a small piece of my day, not I'm starting my day off with that, and it's fucking
downhill from there.
Downhill from there, and I think that might have a lot to do with it. And it's affecting me around my son and my wife. It's like it's hard to be like.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy to come up with a hopeless picture after too much, and it can just put you in a state that's just no good. And I try to. I tell Daryl one of the things I'm guilty of is like hate reading something. Like I know I'm going to disagree with this, but I'm going to read it anyway. It's just and then I'm like, all of a sudden the only person angry here is me. Like the only one, the person that wrote this is like, they're eating dinner somewhere, and it's just me huffing and puffing.
They're getting your click.
So. Exactly. So I just, just fucking. It's okay to take a day off here.
Yeah.
And there,
See,
so.
I'm not really. Like I'm not a clickbait kind of guy. Like I'll read something like, okay, that's crazy, but I'm more like I'm fascinated by like the things people can think, or it blows my mind, especially the last month or so. It's like I get in deep in the comments just to kind of, it's like this is society, this is real, because you get boxed. Everybody has their bubble, and if you're within this bubble where you're, everybody has these. Progressive thoughts. They don't judge people. There's all these things that like feels very normal for me, especially. And then you take a deep dive, and the other side of that is just, man.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that's important, and this is something I try to do, is I try to be fluent in both sides of an argument, just so I understand what your objections are. And I think when we had Paul on the show, him and I had a really nice conversation about being vegan, and he I had questions, and we just, it was like a natural, it wasn't like a debate, it was just a natural conversation of like, what about this? Oh, well, actually it's because this. Oh, really? Okay, well, what about this? And like it's hard to do that in a public way now, and I like being, like you're saying, like I like to dig in and see, well, what are these, because if someone disagrees with you, they have a reason for it, and it might enlighten you to at least understand how to respond if you hear them out. And that goes for like both, like any. It's not just I hate to say both sides, but any angle on any situation to be clear. That anybody may have. Like if you hear them out, it's you might do a little better there. So.
Well, I don't know if because of social media and because it's something digitized that is kind of there forever. Like I feel like people are so afraid to change opinion. Like
right, okay. That's so weird to me.
It's okay to be ignorant and then learn. Hey, I was a fucking piece of shit in regards to that. Like I should change my ways. Like
and then you change your ways, and then they're like,
okay. But it's
and then people are still angry.
Yeah, but I feel like people are like, I have my opinion, and I can't stray away from that if I've said that's my opinion. Yeah, and I think that's dangerous.
Well, man. I think it's rejection. People are afraid of being rejected by their close, their peers, their workplace.
It all comes down to the bubble you're in. Yeah.
They don't want to be, and that's why I try to fly my flag with everybody. You know what I mean? In the Cosmic Canoe. So, all right. How to with Anonymous wants to know, in his companion book for Automata, Tommy mentions that The Great Misdirect was his collection of short stories. Parallax was his movie, and what does that say? Something was his TV show, and Automata was his book. Yep. Logically, would the next step be a video game story? So you think maybe a story set inside a video game?
No. Here's the thing. I know our culture, and like especially in the like quote unquote prog community, it's like a very video game centered culture. I don't play video games.
How dare you?
I know. I'm like,
yeah, so
if I wrote a video game story, it would be some phony shit. Like, it might be about Mario. I love it.
Yeah, Mario's
what's
awesome.
Really going on there?
Mario's awesome.
Staying on the subject of games here, Drisk Nuts wants to know the lyrics in "Ants of the Sky." In your mind, you can fly are in the video game Borderlands 3 for the character named Flack. Did you know that?
I did, yes.
What are your thoughts? And I saw that and was immediately like, oh snap, that's BT Bam lyrics. They must be some sleeper BT Bam fans there. So there's actually a bunch of BT Bam related little nuggets out there in the gaming world. Is that something officially sanctioned, or are they just fans?
No, they're just fans as far as I know.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you hear about little Easter eggs and stuff, you know, I love that part of movies, TV. I think video games, it's awesome to kind of just show what you enjoy. I mean, we did that in Mordecai, there's a line that's about South Park.
Nice.
And like, maybe people will figure that out that I said that now. But yeah,
breaking news, it's on Blabbermouth right now.
So yeah, I think that's really cool. And in regards to video games, I don't really play them much, but I would love to do some voice stuff on some. So somebody
nice.
hit me up.
Yeah,
Nice.
so hit him in the Twitter.
Do it.
So on the topic of BT Bam Nuggets, my some of my boys, shout out to the Extractus boys, they're really into Magic the Gathering. They're a couple of magicians, and there's a glass casket Magic card. Yeah, I sent it to Dusty.
Awesome.
Yeah, so apparently there's some, and it's pretty new, and apparently there's some fans there too. So it's pretty cool when that.
What game would you want a VO for? Like if you had a game, like what would you think?
Well, here's the thing. I like, my son likes video games, so I'm kind of like, it's mainly iPad stuff. He likes Roblox and
Roblox.
Daryl's in a Roblox world too, man.
So like that's like what I see, and what I set up an account so I can play with him. So we
Yeah, dude, I do the same thing.
And he just got into Fortnite. But like at a game, like I have Hitman, like I love Hitman, but I can't play it. Like
that's too hard for me.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not gonna sit there and snipe people and be like, yo, it's fun to like sneak up and kill people, So I haven't played it in ages, so I'm just kind of whatever he's playing, I'll goof around with. But yeah, I don't know. I'm so out of touch with like what's cool in that world. But I hear like The Last One of Us 2 is pretty cool right now.
Yeah, they almost got me on that one. I might.
Hey T, what's your son's favorite Roblox game?
God, right now he's been doing the restaurant tycoon stuff.
Yeah.
Like he really like making these crazy restaurants. And he did an amusement park where he kept having my wife and I get on our accounts and go and check it out.
Is he into?
He loves like Five Nights at Freddy's.
My son loves that one.
My son loves he likes all the scary stuff.
What about Build a Boat? Has he ever gotten into Build a Boat?
What is it?
Build a Boat.
No, I don't think so.
Tell him to get on Build a Boat. It is amazing. Like you could just. Basically, you guys kind of descend on these different flagged areas, different colors, and you can just build anything, but mostly boats. Cool. And it's pretty awesome. He'll love it.
Yeah, it's virtual Legos now, man. It's pretty amazing what these kids can do.
He's a big Lego guy, so I think Roblox instantly like connected with that.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Anytime I've seen him around the shows, he's building something, he's finding something to build. So that's good stuff. Okay, this is a question that I can really strongly relate to. The Red Wonder. Hi, Tommy. I am an aspiring prog metal songwriter that is feeling lost and let down by the music education system. I'm currently a jazz studies major on piano, but my professors in academia more broadly believe that this music is not valid or worthy of study, while I strongly believe that it is. Have you overcome the opposition and scorn that this music is sometimes treated with, and what advice would you give someone feeling let down by the education system?
I'm the wrong guy to ask about this, first of all, because I've never had any education when it comes to music outside of just doing it. I don't know. I mean, I think in general, when someone says a statement like that, it probably means you're onto something, and if it makes you feel a certain way, then go for it. Who cares? But yeah, I mean, I've heard that is a problem in the music school community. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like, like the whole instrumental kind of, prog band thing it's kind of creeped over into that world. And I know a lot of those guys do, a lot of stuff with, the music schools and do, all the seminars and stuff. So I don't know, but I've never been in that world at all. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to say drop out.
Yeah, don't give up. That's
that's what I did in college. But it wasn't a music thing. I dropped out because of music. I was like, I just want to tour. Like what? So
economics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I mean, I guess see if your teacher will listen to something that borders that line of, what he doesn't like and what he does like, and see if that can. Converting people's tough with a lot of things. So I don't know. I wish I was more help.
Yeah, I would say, number one, that's like the cross to bear with this kind of music, and I don't know, what are this listeners into, but just one advice I always say is if your goal is to like make tons of money and meet lots of chicks, it's not your bit. Prog is not going to be your thing there. So if you want to express yourself with no limits, and also be brutal, keep at it. And it's always good to learn from different sources, be it whether it's self-taught only and you get some education. So
it's such a good, like for the band, for instance, like a few of us are self-taught and a few of us are very educated with it. And when you combine those things, it's great because you have someone looking at something from a very technical standpoint, and then you have someone like me who are like, well, maybe I'll write a riff that makes no sense whatsoever, but it sounds cool, and it's like, and you put those things together, and it can create some very interesting, So music in general, when we started this, it was never like I'm gonna do this to make money.
Right.
It was never, and that was very normal back, because came from the hardcore scene, and like bands, everything was very small. Like bands, you started bands because you wanted to hang with your friends, and you wanted to write music. Like that was your thing.
Yep.
And there was no like future plan. There was just like, let's do this, and that's kind of, I mean, I don't even know if there was a switch that was like, okay, this is our job now. It just kind of naturally happened.
Yeah, at some point you started selling merch.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know.
That's the next thing you know, you're set, man.
We're all I always joke that bands are just clothing companies that write
music.
Yeah,
especially now. You guys, you're always selling out of something. And you know what? It sucks is because I'm not a big social media guy. And the first thing I knew about BT Band was the Silent Circus, and I see the other day I'm like going through my feed at like 11 o'clock at night. I was like, oh, the vinyl's up, and then like I scroll up, oh, it's sold out in fucking 2 hours.
I forget because I'm on the other end where I'm like, I gotta announce it and organize all that stuff, and it's like it sells out, and I'm like, shit, I won't get a copy because I totally forgot to like.
Put one aside.
Put one aside for us. So all that stuff. Yeah, it's cool. It's been cool doing those re-releases.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Jamie did such a good job.
Jamie rocked it. Oh my God.
Yeah,
he rocked it.
It made me like some of these records like in a whole new way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the king. He's the fucking king for a reason.
And I think like with Silent Circus, it really starts sounding like he did a great job with Great Misdirect and self-titled, the Silent Circus. I was like, man, this.
That's almost. I mean, that's almost 20 years old, right?
Something like that, yeah.
It's coming up on it.
Probably 17 or 18, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Colors is going to be 20 soon. How about that? You guys are getting old.
It's crazy. I feel good. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. All right, last couple here. Hello, Victoria. When writing a concept album, what comes first, the story or the music?
We always normally. We work on, it's all very separate normally. We work on the music as a group, and it changes for me lyrically. Sometimes something, like we were talking about earlier, something really starts to work for me lyrically and starts to make sense with what I'm hearing with the music. Very early on, sometimes it doesn't at all, and I have to, the music will be completely done when I start working on it. So it changes from album to album. And I always try to change my process up a little bit, so that changes too. So
keep it fresh, right?
Yeah.
Keep it fresh. Yeah.
Keep it fresh.
I don't like to fall into like doing things a certain way always. It's always backfired on me when I do that.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of takes the whole spirit out of the progressive idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the idea of the progressive thing, I think that's one of the funniest things about just kind of progressive music fandom is that the idea is to be doing things that are different and forward thinking and new and genre breaking, and then people always get upset when you push you push a little too far. It's like, that's the point. We're trying to fucking break the envelope here.
Well, that's
folks.
why I think, I mean, my definition, like that word prog it's become something where I feel like it's not really,
doesn't mean the same thing anymore.
Doesn't mean that, because for me, like, you know, a lot of, like, Radiohead to me is kind of prog, you know. It's like because I don't know what to expect.
Right.
Prog to me is like, I don't know what's next.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of bands like that don't fall under a moniker like that at all.
Now it means you've got to have a 7-string and, you know, all that stuff. So, that's been a good been a good run there. So last question from Reddit again. Thank you guys for checking out and supporting the podcast and for your questions. It's Jordan Wilson wants to know: will we ever get to know the full story to Coma Ecliptic? Maybe through a lyric book like you did with Automata, which I would love for every album. Honestly, I got a lot of versions of that. People wanting more lyric books. I think that's pretty cool. So, I
want to do more. I don't know. It's tough for me. Like, once I'm done with a story and just the album in general, it just gets erased in a way, and I move on to the next thing. I don't know if it's because there's always normally something on the horizon, but like sitting down and kind of getting back in that moment and trying to think about how I was thinking and what I was thinking about when I wrote something. It's kind of tough for me sometimes. So I should probably start doing it in the moment when I'm writing, I guess, is the lesson I just figured out right now.
Hey, there you go. Well, this is an education podcast. So
every man up.
Yeah. So, but the Coma story, the Coma story's done. Yeah. That dude's dead.
Breaking news. Coma Ecliptic.
Yeah. That dude got totally died.
Out of here.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think. Parallax creeps over and actually makes an appearance in. Oh yeah, it makes an appearance in Coma, I think. So who knows? Parallax. I was gonna actually write a story like based on the beginning of Parallax, but it became just a part of a track in Coma.
Yeah, you're gonna have to start writing to really one up yourself. I think you should write a concept album about a songwriter who's writing the concept album, and then he kind of you know what I mean? Just kind of keep going, just dig deeper into that hole.
Speaking of, we were talking about video games. There's a company. Sorry, this isn't very professional for me to do, but
got to look it up. Got to be accurate.
All right,
we do it all the time.
There's a phone. This company called Rusty Lake.
Rusty Lake.
They do. There's like 15 games. They're like escape room games.
Yeah.
And it's all based around this one story. So it's like this big concept over like 10, 15 games, and it's real dark and creepy, and I've dove in really hard with it, and I've played all of them. And
Rusty Lake, huh?
Rusty Lake.
Rusty Lake's the company. There's a lot of them are called Cube Escape, Paradox.
Okay.
Cube
yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I've seen those. I've never. They're good though.
I've seen some of those on YouTube.
Really good. And I was like,
some of those are like freaky though.
You remember that movie, The Cube? Do you guys remember that?
Vaguely.
There's like these dudes were trapped in like a cube prison, and the whole movie was like in like a air conditioning vent.
Yeah. Oh, really? That was like.
That's pretty much. Yeah, it was like them crawling through vents into other big open cubes and being stressed out. It was a good time. The Cube.
Yeah, but those games, I was like, man, if I had to like work with someone to do a video game thing, I was like, man, you could totally bring us one of these stories to life with something like that. Cool.
Hey, well, Dream Theater made their own app game based off of a concept album. That's you guys, anything's possible. So,
that's awesome.
Tommy, thank you so much, man, for hanging with us here today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Feel better is out. And last little bit here from us, I just want to ask you, because a lot of the fans were asking this: what in these challenging times of COVID-19, what is the absolute best way for your fans to support Between the Buried and Me right now?
I mean, obviously, listening and buying any music we have out, but I mean, we're trying to. I mean, anything we post on our website, it's people are always like, I wonder if they're getting any money from that. That if we're posting about it, it's like we're behind it, like we're making that happen. So yeah, I mean, any way you can help, and we have some things on the horizon that we should be announcing fairly soon that you can help with. I don't know. There's some things.
Awesome.
Yeah, just listen, man. I mean, I think honestly, just the support in general we have, we're so fortunate to have, and to see people, during this time still like buying things and supporting us it's mind blowing, because I mean, we're all struggling right now. We're all, everybody's losing their jobs and shit, and so yeah, just for people to help us and support things we're doing, that means a lot. So yeah.
That's awesome. We heard it here. Tommy, thank you so much, man. Feel
T.
better in the show notes. Check it out, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you down the road, brother. We'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.